So you're getting ready to implement a connection screener. It sounds easier said than done, so let's stop for a minute and think about your plan. First, imagine you're someone who's spent a great deal of time lounging on your couch, but dreaming one day of running a marathon. You wouldn't be able to just sign up and run a marathon the next week or even the next month. You'll first need a plan, one that incrementally increases your running ability and stamina so you'll be ready for the big day. We should look at implementing a connection screener in the same way. The first step is planning for implementation. This matters regardless of the context you're administering the screener, whether it's in person or virtually. There's a science behind how to make meaningful changes. It's called implementation science and involves a predictable process to implement new things. What you see here are stages of implementation. This can be implementing anything from a new curriculum, reorganizing a healthcare system, or conducting a screener. Although these stages are presented in a table format, suggesting a linear process, they can be fluid, as well as messy and a little awkward at times. Now you're in between the exploration, adoption, and installation phases. By taking the initial connectedness course and then deciding to participate in this course, you've moved through the exploration adoption phase. However, remember that other staff who aren't part of this course have not been through this phase yet. Part of your plan should be how to build awareness and get buy-in from other staff and students who will be participating in a connection screener. The next steps in this course will be to set up the installation features to actually administer a screener and utilize the results. Just like the marathon example, you should not consider scaling up to screening all students and staff in your building without planning and starting small. This is initial implementation. In this stage, we strongly recommend that you start with a small pilot group, such as one grade level or a particular group of students and staff. Piloting allows you to practice implementation on a smaller scale and work out the kinks in a more controlled setting. You'll have a greater likelihood of success if you can find and address implementation challenges before exposing your new practice to a setting where you have less control. This follows implementation science for the initial implementation phase. Practices are essentially the behaviors that adults engage in. These are the things that are often most difficult to change. Implementation science focuses on how to make this happen, setting up the infrastructure so adults are supported to alter behavior in order to enact change. And this is why following the stages of implementation are critical. This is consistent across any change you want to occur. Some may be quicker than others, while others take more time because the consensus or buy-in takes longer or the infrastructure takes longer to put into place. There is a difference between being willing and ready, and different stages of readiness among schools. The term readiness is about whether the organization or system is in a place to engage in a change in practice. Just because people want to do something does not mean that the institutional factors are in place for that change to occur. In our many years working with schools in and outside of Rhode Island, we found several things to be consistent. Mainly, infrastructure is key. Schools that lacked infrastructure were not able to carry out the screening process regardless of how much enthusiasm they had in the beginning. Without taking the time to ensure the appropriate infrastructure was in place, schools who were initially willing felt the survey was not effective without ever having implemented it with fidelity or using their data. Another key thing we found is that it truly takes a team, not just one person. The process, even though it sounds simple, is more involved than most schools realize and more than what one person can take on. This is why in the past we've required a team of educators be involved in this process, particularly when scaling up to an entire school. The biggest takeaways to remember are these. Don't underestimate the need for building consensus among your staff and students. It's critical to thoughtfully plan your infrastructure for implementing the connection screener. Pilot. Start small before scaling up. And ensure your school is not just willing but ready. This course includes supports to help you with this. And finally, this all can't fall onto one person. If so, it will not be sustainable.